Super Hits Radio. Joy 99.7.
Miss Vio. It's the time of the day when all seems okay. It gets better when I hear you play. I keep begging for more emotions they soar as you take me on that Lexus tour. When I'm going home, it's drive time on joy. Whoa. Lexus, take me home. It's drive time on joy. Whoa. Lexus, take me home. Whoa. Lexus, take me home.
Hi, this is Nana Window. Listen to Personality Profiles with Lexus Bill. Get inspired, get nourished, and grow to be the best that you want to be. Personality Profile and 99.7 FM. I love it.
Hi, this is Mr. Simons. Keep listening to Personality Profile with Lexus Bill. This is the program that inspires you and brings you very close to your role models.
Hi, this is Nadia Antano, Miss Ghana 2013. Keep listening to Personality Profile with Lexus Bill every Thursday at 7 p.m. on Joy FM and be inspired.
This is Lawyer Philip Addison. Every Thursday night, 7 p.m., listen to Personality Profile on Joy FM, where top personalities meet. It will motivate you, to inspire you, to send you to greater heights.
I'm Vera Kwakufi, Current Affairs Editor of BBC Africa. Keep listening to Lexus Bill on Personality Profile on Joy 99.7 FM. You could just be able to hear the best piece of advice that sets you on the course to success.
Hi, my name is James Ebo-White, or everyone calls me Uncle Ebo-White. You know, what you'll be 5 years from now depends on only two things: the books you read and the people you meet. On Personality Profile, you meet the kind of people you need to meet to make your transition to your greatness. You want a program that would help you, inspire you, motivate you. Why bother to turn to other channels? Just stay here on Personality Profile and you get all the inspiration you need.
Yeah, you can be the greatest, you can be the best, you can be the King Kong banging on your chest.
You can beat the world, you can beat the war. Talk to God, go banging on his door.
You can throw your hands up, you can beat the clock.
Yeah.
You can move a mountain, you can break rocks.
You can be a master, don't wait for luck. Dedicate yourself and you can find yourself
standing in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. And the world's gonna know your name. Yeah. 'Cause you burn with the God's flame. Yeah. And the world's gonna know your name. Yeah. And you'll be on the walls of the Hall of Fame. You can go the distance, you can run the mile. You can walk straight through hell with a smile.
You could be the hero, you can get the gold. Breaking all the records they thought never could be broke.
Yeah, do it for your people, do it for your pride. And you're never gonna know if you never even try.
Do it for your country, do it for your name. 'Cause there's gonna be a day when you're
standing in the Hall of Fame. And the world's gonna know your name. 'Cause you burn with the God's flame. And the world's gonna know your name. And you'll be on the walls of the Hall of Fame.
be a champion. Be a champion. Be a champion. Be a champion.
Be students, be teachers, be politicians, be preachers. Yeah. Be believers, be leaders, be astronauts, be champions, be truth seekers. Be students, be teachers, be politicians, be preachers. Yeah. Be believers, be leaders, be astronauts, be champions. Standing in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. And the world's gonna know your name. Yeah. 'Cause you burn with the God's flame. And the world's gonna know your name.
Yes, you could be sitting in the Hall of Fame and the world will know your name. Good evening and welcome to Personality Profile here on Joy 99.7 FM. I'm so elated that you are tuned in right now. Well, good thing is we've got a video live on Facebook as well. This conversation we're about to have is live on Facebook, so you can actually log onto Facebook and share the link with your friends and family. And this is actually a conversation you don't want to miss. For the next 1 hour, I would want you to stop whatever you're doing and listen in because it's important to you. Yes, not really just about my guest, but also what he does and the impact it's going to have on your life. You're going to love it. My name is Lexus Bill. Welcome to Personality Profile. You know, we spend time having conversations about people and what they do for Ghana, from various industries, from business to politics, governance, religion, and the likes. Well, today, Personality Profile Train lands in academia. Yeah, well, academia and religion, sort of. And I'm sure you get it. You get a perspective a bit later. Many people might have encountered this man, and whether it was in class, whether it's about his scholarly articles, his work, or probably heard him on one of the media houses talking about a very important part of our lives, mental health. Yeah. I was especially thrilled when I heard that he's the first Ghanaian to become a full professor in suicidology. Yeah. Suicidology. You know, I was like, okay, so who really had that guts to decide to explore suicide academically into detail at the level of a professor? He's a full professor in suicidology, the only one in Ghana currently. I had read papers on suicidology, and now it's even more impressive to see the body of work and research that my guest has done on suicidology in Ghana. And I was even thrilled as well to know that he was very instrumental and one of the leading members who advocated for the decriminalization of attempted suicide in Ghana. You know, a few months ago, Ghana's parliament approved amendments to the Criminal Offences Act of 1960, which previously made attempted suicide a criminal offense. Well, as per the recent changes, individuals who attempt to take their own lives will now be regarded as needing mental health support rather than facing imprisonment under the law. Well, my guest today is a full professor of clinical and health psychology and currently immediate past head of Department of Psychology, University of Ghana. And currently he's the acting director for Center for Aging Studies, CAS, at the University of Ghana. He has a PhD in health sciences, MPhil in psychology, that's clinical psychology, and a Master of Arts in theology and missions. He's engaged in cutting-edge research and has over 80 publications in reputable peer-reviewed journals. His research includes suicidality, child and maternal health, child development and mental health, adolescent sexuality, divorce, and more related issues on mental health. He's executive director for Center for Suicide and Violence Research. He's the lead for Partnership for Life for the Africa region, a global initiative for the International Association for Suicide Prevention. And it seeks to prevent suicide in various regions of the world. Now, he's an ordained minister of the gospel, serving in the Church of Pentecost at East Legon Worship Center. Reverend Professor Joseph Osafo is my guest on PP today. Osafo Akwaba.
Hi, thank you.
Really good to see you,
and
finally.
Yes, my pleasure. And thanks for having me here.
How are you?
I'm well.
I must say, you look good. Your tailor did a good job. You need to introduce me to him.
Goodness.
Because I mean, to see him in all his...
There's a young man, I have here clothing.
Oh, man.
Yes, he's a young man.
He's got a good touch.
Great one.
No, I'm so glad that we get to have you here on Personality Profile. But how are you?
I'm well, and how are you doing too?
I'm fine.
I listen to your programs.
Oh, do you?
They are very inspiring.
Oh, I'm happy. Yeah. I'm glad. Yeah. I'm happy to have you on as well because you've inspired so many people. And today we get to know a bit about your journey through life. It's been almost a year since you attained full professorship. Huh?
Oh, that was 2020.
Oh, that's a long time ago.
Like
wow. I actually read that article last year.
Okay.
So I thought it was quite recent, but... We'll see much.
So usually what happens is that when you apply, you know, the bureaucracy goes through a lot of processes, and so when you go through, they would have to backdate that.
Yeah.
So this application was done in 2020, and so I'm 3 years old.
Wow! Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now so I'm like, okay, who really sets out to go and research on suicide? I mean, who even wants to talk about suicide? I mean, a lot of people probably have been suicidal, and nobody even wants to talk about it or admits that,
A very unpopular, very heavy subject that nobody wants to talk about. And you're right. I remember when I returned from my PhD, some of my colleagues had concerns because, I mean, of all the subjects and the areas of psychology that, I mean, you could take opportunity and study, why did you get into this area that is so heavy?
Yeah.
I mean, when you're talking about it, you can't even get words to express because when you hear somebody has killed himself or herself, you always feel sad.
Yeah.
And I recall when I was collecting data on this subject, for the elderly that I have to speak to, they insisted that I got a schnapp. I'm talking about hard liquor.
Wait.
Yes.
Like the lead, who exactly?
So, for example, if I wanted to talk to any elderly person, at the point I wanted to, if you like, reconstruct the traditional notions. I want to talk about somebody has killed himself. What does it mean? In Akan, they call it atofu.
Okay.
Some call it ahunkum, self-killing.
Yeah.
Atofu, ahunkum. So just wanted to deconstruct, just to get this properly. And then they will tell you, this is a very heavy subject. And let me put it in tree. It says, mean to mean, just a machine and
I just you gunsa.
Yes, me gunsa. To it, I need to invoke
like
the
pour libation or something.
Pour libation and invoke the spirits of my fathers in order to allow me to have free
to even
expression.
Speak about it.
I'm telling you, that was how heavy this subject was. So stigmatized. Nobody talked about that. And I remember, if you dare open your mouth to tell somebody you wanted to die, and even now, the chances that you're going to be shut down, blood of Jesus, Ghanaians.
Yeah.
For a Chuchu film. I don't say that again. What do you mean by that? Come on. Don't say that again. Come on. Kasaman can be.
Yeah.
So this is very common. So it's a very heavy subject, very stigmatized. It's people have very bad experience of talking about this, and it's because traditionally, if you talk about the dead and you talk about those who did not die a natural death, the thinking was that you were virtually given a certain kind of freedom and room to allow this unsettled spirit to still continue to just hover around us and come with all their cases and negative things. So don't talk about them. Let them just go in silence.
Okay.
They did not think about us. They didn't care about how we feel. They took their life against all our wishes. Why do you want to talk about them? Let them go. If they are there, let them be gone. Because talking about them is virtually invoking and legitimizing what they did. So don't do that. And so they would not want you to talk about this subject at all. Wow. But we know that if you talk about this subject, you also empower people to speak up.
Yeah.
And to open up and tell you what is happening to them so they can get help in time.
I'm wondering how you even came by your respondents. Because how are you going to identify people who are suicidal?
Okay,
or who are suicidal? Or do you go and interview the dead people?
Of course, I remember. That's a very
observation.
That's a very interesting comment, because I recall the first time I entered into, I forgot the meeting, but sort of meeting. And I got there and I said, I'm a suicide preventionist. No, I said I'm a suicidologist. Then somebody looked at me and said, what did you say? And I said, I'm a suicidologist. He said, do you help people to kill themselves? I said, of course not. But so first and foremost, we need to understand what is the cultural conception about suicide.
Okay.
And so if you set out on that tangent, people are going to talk to you from their own perspective and then tell you about who they have ever met. I mean, I know somebody here who has killed himself. I know this person who has attempted, So that's how I started.
Yeah.
And then you snowball and get to some persons who, for example, have survived a suicide attempt. And they will tell you about their experiences. I remember I used to do a lot of interventions in communities because I wanted to address the issue of stigma.
Okay.
And the fact that people will not allow you to talk in some traditional communities. And I remember I got to a community and the linguist has attempted suicide.
Wow.
And then, so when I introduced myself and my team, he said, Opening, Mekora, now
wow.
I mean, I didn't die.
Yeah.
I fortuitously survived.
Yeah.
And so it was quite interesting to hear that people of such repute had attempted to kill themselves and they survived. So this opened the space for discussions. Then others are likely to say, okay, if Ochame, himself has even attempted, why don't I open up? Okay, so snowballing to, families have had wards, children in primary school. I mean, the youngest I've seen is 8 years, who took her life, unfortunately, and a number of those we've spoken to have also survived.
Yeah.
Families have lost their members and their wards and loved ones and fathers, and you can see the pain, the anguish. They are so angry that why did you take your life? You have dented our image. You made a mess of us. Why did you do that? So it's a really heavy subject, and I'm happy that I went into an area that was very unpopular.
Yeah.
That was new. It was virtually, trailblazing.
Yes.
An area that was not very much known.
You decided to chart a path.
I tell you, I did that.
That's great. I've personally met many people who have been suicidal for various reasons. I mean, even on my show, I've had people call in and admit they are suicidal, and most of the time we've been able to help them. Now, luckily, the topic of mental health is being discussed more frequently now. Do you think we're in a place where people are getting better mentally, or they are getting worse off?
That's an interesting question, but I think that people are first and foremost becoming aware of the need to talk about mental health. Remember, if you look at our traditional arrangement and the way we are socially arranged, we are very much aware of physical health. We're very much aware of spiritual health, and that's why people will talk about, I have to go and see the traditional priest, I have to go and see Osafo, but people aren't very much aware of mental health. Emotions in this part of the world can easily be dispensed of. But people don't talk about emotions. When you are a man, for example, and you're crying, you often have heard it, that men don't cry. So that the area of the psychocentric, talking about your emotions, your thoughts, it's not very deeply explored within our, our space as a group. I'm talking about our communal and psychosocial space. And so mental health, and so the reason for which people were stigmatizing mental health a lot, because we didn't have a lot of, discussions in those spaces.
Yeah.
If you were unwell, you were either diabolized or there's a demonic, influence over your head, and that's why you're behaving that way. Chances are that if they thought that this was the manipulation of, some diabolical interventions, then you were sent to a a pastor, a spiritual, whatever, to pray over you and maybe conduct some kind of spiritual whatever over you, rituals and whatnot. You are fine. But the area of psychocentric discussions came up when psychiatrists, psychologists, and mental health workers began talking about, look, between physical and spiritual, you have the psyche, you have your soul, You feel, you live in a world. You go through challenges, difficulties, sometimes hurt you. You go to bed and you're thinking, you can't sleep. When somebody gets up and tells you that, look, I couldn't sleep last night, I was just thinking about what he's talking about, an issue that bothers on the psychocentric. I couldn't sleep. This particular issue is still bothering my mind. That's psychology. That's mental health. I had a news and I was so hurt. That is emotions. It's talking about your mental health. And so people weren't very much aware of this. But now they are becoming aware.
Okay.
But again, I think that so many adversities in the world are making people's lives very difficult to really, be resilient and to continue to live a meaningful life. Look at what happened globally in 2020.
Yeah.
The ravages of COVID. Look at how systems have been disrupted, economies. Look at transport, for example, is affected. Look at workplaces. At a point, I was checking ILO, and people were losing jobs all over. And nations and economies have not even recovered. So, in fact, some mental health experts have indicated, based on the data that we're getting, that some say, it could be an exaggeration, but it's quite interesting to just reflect on this, that the next decade is a lost decade.
A lost decade?
Yes, lost decade. That we're going to be struggling with the after effect of COVID. We're going to have a lot of mental health issues. And it's now all over. Check data in the US, in UK, the whole of Europe, and come back to Africa. Currently, Africa is leading when it comes to suicide issues. A lot of young people are dying. And remember that Africa is the youngest continent. And if you have young people killing themselves, what do you think lies ahead?
Yeah.
It means that our best minds are all just going. Okay, so we have to take care of ourselves. In fact, our estimate in Ghana is placing those between the age of 14 and 19, about 20% of them who have attempted suicide in the past year. Even if they survive, it's still very risky to have a young person who says, I want to die. And so it doesn't look too good.
It doesn't look good.
At all. It doesn't look too good. And that's why we have to have such conversations on mental health.
If you're listening in and you want to join the conversation via WhatsApp, you can send us a message on 055-1111-997. Or you can actually check out our live video and put your comment on our Facebook live stream right now. Reverend Professor Joseph Osafo is my guest today. We'll talk more about suicidology, because for me today I just don't want this to be a personality profile, because there's a lot that we can actually get from you. So for those who are having psychosocial issues, this is where you turn up the volume. Okay. Now let's get to know a bit more about you before we come to the other issues. Where do you hail from? I want to understand how your life has been up to we decide that I'm going to school to study suicidology. Where do you hail from?
Well, I come from a place I proudly describe as the Garden of Eden. And recently I was telling a friend that, do you know where Adam hailed from? He said, oh God. I said, that's from my hometown, Enum Boso.
Boso?
Yes, but I'm from Enum. You get to Enum, then you get to Tosen, you get to Nanyo, then to Boso.
Okay.
Okay, so I come from Enum.
Enum, okay.
And Enum is just, if you know the Akosombo road through the Eastern Corridor.
Right.
And then you take the lane on the left to Hohoi Road from Esikuma Junction. Just about, let's say, 4 kilometers. There's another 10. And that's Enum. You just head into Nkokobeo or Sebe, and you're going to Enum. And when you get to Enum, you love the place. It's in the valley. And then you can go I'll encourage you to visit
I would love to.
My school.
Oh, you have a school there?
Yes, Enum Presbyterian Secondary School.
Okay.
It's one of the oldest in the country. Okay. It's about 100 years, 100 and something years.
Oh, wow.
And you will see the biggest part of the Volta Lake from my school.
I see.
Virtually, you may think it's a sea. It's a huge.
Wow.
Yes, and I love to. Those were the days after.
Probably you should take me along the next time you're visiting.
I think
I'd
so.
love to go with
I
you.
think so. After a hot morning morning mental.
Yeah.
You want to just go there and just watch. When a teacher comes to you and it's very hot on you, you want to just go there and just distress a little bit and watch. It's so lovely.
Yeah.
It's so lovely. And
is that where you were born?
That's where I was born and bred.
Okay.
So I attended primary school right from Enum Anglican, St. Andrews Anglican Primary.
Okay.
And then went through GHS. And one good thing, I were the first batch for the 1986-87 GHS. Okay. So I'm a pioneer.
I see.
You know, I can narrate our experience
I this see how you say that with a smile on your face.
I'm so proud.
You're proud of it.
Oh my goodness! You know, those were the days that we were told that we were going to have a new school.
Yeah.
And I went to visit my brother who was at the time in Koforidua, and he bought me a shoe. You know,
Hey.
and Charlie, I didn't know the shoe was actually for ladies. You know. And this was this. How do you call these shoes? I mean, the sole was not. You know. A little bit elevated.
Had a heel.
Oh my goodness, and black, you know. So I got some white socks. School and reopened, and I was just one. And the way I was just, kept walking. I said, "Hey, what's happening here? What kind of school is this?" So that's why I started schooling, primary school. I wasn't very smart. I was a late bloomer in school. So when I started, I wasn't good. I recall.
How bad?
I was the last all the time.
You were the last all the time. Wow.
I was the last. I was the last in class 1, class 2, class 3. I picked up in class 4. I think class 3, second term. That was where the miracle occurred. So that should be when I was about 9, 10 years. Class 3, I had a teacher who was very encouraging. Because my teacher in class 1 and 2, and I think class 3, first, second term, they were not good.
Wow.
Are
you blaming your teachers?
Yes, they said they were not good. I'll tell you, and that's a fact because a lot of teachers feel it's good to use a cane on a child, and that's the only means by which a child can learn. I'm completely opposed to that because of my experience. It's not true. When I was growing up, I did not like people using canes on others. As a child, I felt you could still talk to a child. You did not need to use a cane. And I did not enjoy those teachers, to be honest with you.
Okay.
When I got to class 3, third term, I had a teacher. I love sports. And I think he brought the best. I don't know whether he's still alive. He's called Mr. Diku.
Okay.
Diku. And he brought life in me. And I play football. I enjoyed football. And I also learn by playing.
Okay.
That's how I learn. And I think that he just got that. So he will come back to class and then will be encouraging me. I always be sitting at the back.
Yeah.
And sometimes I need the answer, but I won't say. And all of us able to be whipped.
Wow.
But class 3, third term, let's say the miracle happened. I mean, exams went on. And I was second. And the guy who is all the time last. How come I was the second?
Hey.
And so I joined class 4 and just continued. That's okay.
And that was it?
That was it. I never trailed.
After the miracle was what? It was.
So for me,
exemption of the king, huh?
No, I thought that I got a teacher who explored other alternatives in teaching me, but not using the corporal punishment approach.
Yeah.
I mean, some teachers were like that. I mean, 1 + 1, no mentor. 1 + 1 - 1 × 2, and then they just want to whip you. That's all they wanted to do. And I thought that was not the way I wanted to learn.
I'm sure some teachers listening now would be happy that you're having this conversation.
Oh yes,
and you're giving them alternatives to helping their children.
Exactly. And I recall about 5 years ago, I had a chance to be on, was it on TV3, one of the television stations, because they had a program on My Life, My Teacher. I think the best teacher I got was in GHS.
Wow.
And he's still alive. And I'm very proud.
What's his name?
He could be listening from my hometown. He's called Mr. J.
Mr. J.
I call him Teacher J.
Okay.
He could be listening from my hometown. Teacher J from Enum. He's retired. Very solid teacher. So in JHS, I was still very quiet, very withdrawn. And so I'll just be sitting at the back. But Teacher J, how we affectionately called him, very, very smart, and he's very, what's the word? He's very smart in picking indications that
maybe intuitive.
I like the word. Maybe I use the word intuitive. Very much. And he could pick up signals and indicators that, look, this guy could be good. And so he will come to you, and very encouraging. Very encouraging. So by JHS 1 second term, I taken my level.
Wow.
I wasn't afraid to be in school. I became the school prefect.
Hey.
And that was it.
What?
I mean, I took my level.
This was a meteoric rise.
My goodness. In fact, Martian rise.
Oh my God, I love it.
And I took my stage, and very encouraging. He will give you work. He will inspect.
Yeah.
He will be passing, in front of my home to school, and will check up on you.
Oh.
Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
That was the teacher. And he kept checking up on me, right? Even when I left JHS, he wanted me to pursue science. So I got to secondary school actually reading science. But by the second term, I had to change because as pioneers, we did not have teachers.
Oh.
So I had to change. I did physics, chemistry, biology, I think EMAT's first term, and I changed and began reading literature, government, history.
The general arts.
General arts, from secondary school.
But was there a certain profession that you wanted to do as a child?
I don't recall, but what clearly was my mind was that I wanted to be a teacher. But I don't want to be a teacher teaching, in the lower. I want to be a teacher. I don't want to be a teacher in primary school or JHS or SHS. No, but I want to be a teacher. Well, I can't explain. Maybe I didn't want that experience because of the way I was treated.
Okay.
But I wanted to be a teacher. In fact, at that time, I didn't know much about lecturing.
Okay.
Although one of my half brothers was into the university working, Dr. Furiye, he was a historian, and he was the first to popularize Japanese history in Ghana. So I knew that he was a lecturer at the University of Ghana, and then occasionally he would come, hey, young man, you have to learn, but I didn't know much about that.
I see.
So I wanted to be a teacher.
But yours is you just wanted to be a teacher.
Just a teacher. And I think I began exploring that when I was in SS1. One of my teachers, Mr. J, I think he's still alive, he called me recently. He taught me government. And he enjoyed the way I could explain concepts to my colleagues. So I recall, and one of them to Mr. Boache, I think he's still alive, he taught me literature. So I remember reading Shakespeare, and he would want me to just stand before the class and then do an analysis, of the book. That's quite, I enjoyed it, I remember teaching my colleagues about forms of government, and then Mr. J would say, Joseph, teach. Mr. Dako taught me history, and there were times we're looking at the Songhai Empire, the Ghana Empire, the Mali Empire. I said, can you teach? I enjoyed those moments. To the extent that when I completed SHS, some of my teachers who taught me electives that I mentioned were engaging me to teach the lower classes. Yes. Wow. So I enjoyed that in secondary school. Yes.
So that's probably what formed, the basis of
perhaps the interest. Yes.
Yeah.
So I left secondary school in 1993 as the only person who left the school to the university.
The only person who left the school to the university?
Too bad. I didn't have a mate.
Wow.
Yes. And the pioneers those days, the entire examination, I believe, was politicized. I mean, because there was a group that thought that we could not move from secondary school to the university. So there was a massive failure. I mean, I recall that just about 1,005 nationwide passed out of over 60,000 students or so. And then I went to Legon to just buy my forms and didn't have a mate. I got them, bought my forms, and got to Legon. And I recall having a mate who was in the 50s, and you wonder, your mate was 50 years old, and when I got to the one of my mates was in 50s, and you saw yourself relative to others like a young chap, a teenager, sort of, because these were old guys wearing beards, and sometimes they'll call you, hey, Robin Simba. I'm casting my son here, but no share. Fairly, you know. That's a very interesting day.
Rollinson, man.
That's how we call. Hey, Rollinson, man, I'm share. Fairly. You know, so that's the point. I grew up from my hometown all the way to I came to.
So now let's talk about, higher education and where your interest in clinical psychology came from.
So, as I said, I started at this time when I got to Lagos in 1995. I think yes, my interest was still in maybe education. I be a teacher. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to be, but at that time too, I was exploring this other dimension of me, which is ministry as a pastor.
Okay.
So I was Pentecost Students and Associate. I became their prayer secretary. I became their president, and I was very much engaged in crusades and going to villages and organizing crusades, and so I'm quite a busy young man and still studying. But my interest in clinical psychology came about one day when I was attending lectures. I had gotten to the Osafo block Annex A, and then I heard people screaming, "Hey, come on, help, come on." A young man who happened not to be a student had just come from town, climbed up to the 4th floor, and was just, jumping from the 4th floor.
You're just about to jump from the 4th floor.
End his life. And 3 guys managed to hold him. So I just, climbed up and just got to know what's the issue. And he began telling me about his wife. And so my interest, I thought, wow, the guy wanted to die. I followed him through. I took him to the Lagos hospital with a colleague, Paul Amfo. He could be listening tonight. He's an elder in our church. And then from there, he was referred to Pantai. I followed up on the gentleman. He kept telling me that he didn't mean to kill himself, but his wife and his mother were a problem for him.
Oh dear.
And so he wanted to just end it all. So when I came back to pursue my master's, I had that at the back of my mind. In fact, 2 areas were running to my mind. One was motor traffic accidents. I wanted to look at the human elements. Then the other one was this suicidality. And then I completed my master's. I didn't do my master's interestingly on any of these topics. Interestingly, on my master's, I looked at psychosocial factors that are associated with what we call bilharzia. The technical name is schistosomiasis. Okay, Josomoja, if you've ever heard that. Okay, well, a schistosome can perforate your bladder, and then you what do you call it, urinate, and there's blood in your urine. And the schistosome is actually found in water. So I did my study around the Kapin North, South, the Densu, Domfast, in those areas. Those are endemic areas where this parasite is found in the Densu River. And so I wanted to look at what are the psychosocial factors for why you have sunk a well for this community where it's an endemic community, and yet they don't want to use the water from the well. They still want to go to river. Exactly. So I wanted to do that and this was a project for Noguchi.
Okay.
They wanted to pick up the psychological factors, and so that's why I did my master's. But the PhD led me into the suicidality.
Yeah.
I was interested now in exploring what I saw when I was a final year student.
Wow.
And then I got opportunity to join Legon as a lecturer, and then 3 years after, I joined Legon in 2005. 2008, I got a chance to go to Norway to pursue a PhD in this area of research, suicidality.
Wow, good stuff. Lots of messages are coming in. Actually, I'm on my Facebook live stream, and I got a message from Kakra Danso, who says Teacher J. Teacher J is also my teacher too.
Oh, they know him. Yes, Kakra is from my hometown.
Yes, and
Amoyao,
Rutherford Alex says Prof is an inspiration for the school.
Oh, yes.
The people of Enuma are proud of you from your assembly member.
Hey,
yes,
honorable.
Yes, the assembly member has sent in a message.
Honorable Rutherford, God bless you.
So
you did a good job.
The whole clinical psychology thing, of course, it's a confluence of psychological, social, cultural, biological factors. I mean, I think this part of our world, the socio-economic setup also makes it more important that we look at mental health. But unfortunately, I think you even alluded to that earlier. would rather go to it's very easy for somebody to go to a general practitioner because of their physical health. But when somebody is referred to a mental health specialist, the first thing is that they just say me bottom or something of the sort. We hardly, approach this. It's what's the reason? Even counseling. I know a lot of people, the only time they've seen their counselor is when they were getting ready to get married, and that's it.
It's a real challenge. So let's look at it from this angle. First and foremost, it appears that within our sociocultural milieu, the conception of who a person is a big issue. So you are conceived as a person if you have a full functioning of all your faculties. We don't believe, Akans, for example, and most other ethno groups in Ghana, don't believe that if you have ever broken down mentally, you have a full use of all your faculties. Sometimes they feel, they put in tree, in the local parlance, kramaya abodampeno kakrawo. I mean, toward if you have ever had a breakdown, you completely cannot be fully recovered. And there are a few vestiges of what happened to you, so kakrao, And so there's a lot of stigma in there because people feel when you have lost a full use of some of your faculties, you are not a full human being. There's a problem. And that narrative ought to be changed. That's the reason why, if you are looking for a chief, you'd have to look for so many attributes. To where there aren't any kind of infectious diseases and some kind of genetic disorders and whatnot. All of those are discriminatory kind of things, because what it simply means is that some people can never become chiefs. And part of this could be taken from actually the Judeo-Christian text. Remember that if you look at Judaism is very thorough in who stands before God. There are certain illnesses and diseases. For example, if you had what they call leprosy, that cannot be described today as the Hansen disease as we see, but any kind of skin disease was seen as leprosy in the Bible, the Old Testament. You were not even counted as part of, a community. You ought to be behind the walls. And so this is a culture that is very engrossed very much in religion. So that's one. People always felt that if you broke down mentally, you had offended the gods, you had done something, you were just being paid. This is the just world. So, God is punishing you for what is happening. Okay? And that's one. The other thing is that if people got to know, for example, that you had a problem and then you were not in good shape, it even affected conjugal opportunities. You could not, for example, say, well, I want to marry you. Say, no, there are some things in your house. I don't want to be part of your family. And so some ladies, for example, did not get opportunity to just marry someone because they said, don't go there. There are some things in that house, don't go there. And the fact is that, the perception is that whatever is there could affect you. Honor is shared much as challenges are shared. That's the thinking. And this has been a challenge for all of us, because the daunting task. How do I get people to understand that, look, anybody at all could break mentally. The pastor could break. The chief himself could break. Anybody at all could break mentally. And so you don't need to stigmatize at it, but open up and ask people to look for help. Now this, I think we've done, mental health advocates have done a good job. I think if you look at the numbers we are seeing in our psychiatric hospitals, in our clinic settings, I think the message is going down well.
It's getting better.
People are now responding. What we need now will be more hands.
Okay.
We need the manpower, because there's manpower crisis.
Are we also seeing more people come in for counseling?
I think so.
Okay.
A lot more people are opening up now. They will call you. My name is so and so. I heard about you here. Can I come and see you? Sometimes you are even overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So people are now opening up. They are coming to consult. They want somebody to reflect on something with them. They want somebody to just tell them that, okay, this is another way of thinking. They want alternatives. People are getting empowered through counseling and through psychological services. So I think that we are doing better, but still more room for improvement.
More room for improvement. In fact, since we're on the topic of counseling, I really need to get you to speak to our programs director, the Maite, who's also the host of Home Affairs.
Okay. Yes. That's a very good program. I've been listening to it.
You listen to it every Saturday.
Listening to it.
In fact, next weekend, the team is putting together a family forum. Actually, the theme is becoming Mr. and Mrs., where young people who want to get into that institution would get some knowledge.
I love this.
I think this is something that you can actually make an input in, because I know that you have a wealth.
I run something I call School of Marriage.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I mean we have the second edition this Sunday, 4:00. It's free.
Wow.
So what I do is to provide opportunities for young people who want to marry to just come sit and listen to me 2 hours.
Oh wow.
Yeah, free. I'm not charging anything.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and the first edition, huge number. I mean, a good number of people were coming from all over. They came over. So come over, just this Sunday.
In fact, you would have to have a conversation with Adam Naite when we are done, because I'm sure this is going to be very, very good and important. Next week, if you're listening in though, next weekend we're going to be at the Best Western Plaza Accra Beach Hotel. That's in Nungwa. So if you would want to be there, you can send us a message on 055111119997. It's the Joy FM Family Forum, dubbed Becoming Mr. and Mrs., put together by Adam Naite and the Home Affairs crew, and you would really be glad that you came by. Okay, so I remember in October 2020 when the Mental Health Week was launched by the Mental Health Authority. The theme was the power of the voice towards the decriminalization of suicide. Well, 3 years later, Ghana's parliament approved amendments to the Criminal Offences Act of 1960, which previously made attempted suicide a criminal offence. Well, as per the recent changes, individuals who attempt to take their own life will now be regarded as needing mental health support rather than facing imprisonment under the law. And I'm sure this is a win, because you were a very huge advocate for this.
Why would you want to kill someone who is distressed? Or not kill, but why would you want to incarcerate someone who is already distressed? For every suicide, there's a story. And for every suicide, there is a logic. So your job is to unpack the logic, to listen to the story, and see where your intervention can be. Is your intervention incarcerating the person and finding the person? Absolutely not needed. And if you look at around the world, anywhere this law was kept, it was just a colonial legacy. You were like if you like a property to the king or the queen, and if you took your life, you were denying the king or the queen your services. So I mean, they reserve the right to punish you.
Okay.
But fast forward, we've learned a lot about human psychology and the human condition. People become suicidal for several reasons. Life's adversities, some are mentally ill, somebody is traumatized. Why would you want to, instead of providing support, you say, go behind jail? And even when they go to jail, they end it there. Again, this particular provision in the law had a certain ionic impact. If you knew that you were going to be incarcerated if you survived, then you must take the lethal route.
And make sure that you
succeed. Make sure you succeed. Simple as that. And so if you look at the data that some of our colleagues had from 2012, they were looking at, for example, this data on men's suicide. Of course, generally, globally, men are quite lethal when they engage in this behavior. But it was so high that the men kept killing themselves using all kinds of very lethal methodologies to end their lives. And again, we had evidence indicating that as of 2013, some persons who attempted and survived were vigorously being harassed by the legal or the justice system, and you're wondering, I mean, why would we want to do that?
End?
And so we had a rare opportunity when the Mental Health Authority and then other groups put together a training for judges and had a chance to train over 240-something judges across the country on the need to look at mental health from another angle. And there could be persons who may be engaged with the criminal justice system because of one thing or the other, and they need to look at their situation from a different perspective. Then judges got to know, wow. And I remember one of the training sessions, I got judges calling. I said, look, I think we have to take a look at this. No, this cannot be a crime. And that's where we saw that, okay, now we need data.
Yeah.
And my center, what we do is to get data. So it's an evidence-driven advocacy.
Yeah.
One of the things you have to know is that, this part of the world, the politician will not listen to you because you are good in talking. The African politician too is very wise. They want to see, what is the data? You're talking about this. What is on the ground? Tell us what is on the ground. And we have a huge data at our center, right from laypersons, data on judges and their views on suicide, police personnel, media personnel. We have data on all of that. We have data on laypersons. We have data on religious leaders. We have data on JHS students and suicide. We have data on secondary school and suicide. We have data on university students as I'm speaking now.
Wow.
So we just push the data to them. This is the data. Would you want this huge number of persons? For example, in secondary school, in 2021, about 22% of secondary schools in Ghana, secondary school students in the past 1 year attempted to kill themselves. 22% out of about 1,800 students who were sampled. 22% wanted, it's not like they just wished, they attempted. Attempted means that they took the step to take their life, but fortuitously survived. Now, are you going to tell me that you're going to just expand in some and keep them there? Is that what you want?
Yeah.
That's not what you want. In one of the universities that we did a study, 20% in the past 1 year attempted to kill themselves. You can't justify this and tell me that because they attempted, you want to just jail them or you want to fine them. So when the parliamentarians saw this, they said, wow, no, this is not the way to go. And we must commend Honorable Anyimedu. He took this serious, and his team, the team on, I think, Legal and Constitutional Amendment Committee or something like that, they took this seriously. We must also commend the former CEO of Mental Health Authority, Professor Kwesi Osei. He and I and others would have been involved in this for a long time, and the enthusiasm and the flame never wane. We kept fighting, we kept submitting petitions, and the last time we were in Parliament to finally work on this. It was a joy.
Wow.
But it's a joy that places responsibility on our shoulders.
Yes.
It is not enough to expunge this provision in our law books. It will be sufficient if government said, okay, after this, let's now go ahead and set up a national suicide prevention policy. Get a center, get the experts. Now let them begin to work and make sure our daughters and sons don't kill themselves. That's when we will say, yes, we are now doing something. But if you decriminalize and you still don't put in place measures to intervene, you haven't completed the journey.
Okay.
So
there's still work to do.
There's a lot of work to do.
I just checked, and we have 4 minutes left.
Oh, goodness.
You know what I mean? Oh, dear.
Wow.
But anyway,
no problem.
One of the other things that I'd want to touch on, and I mentioned that to you earlier, that, because of my position and my role, I meet a lot of people. I hear a lot of their problems. Sometimes you would have to intervene and be there for people. And it's draining personally. There are times that you feel that you need help just after listening to people's problems. I'm wondering, you have been listening to people's problems literally your whole life, and researching and even going to look for those who want to kill themselves and ask what's going on in your mind. How has this affected you personally?
It's been 23 years of working as a clinician, and I can tell you, every clinician knows what we call self-help skills. you know also what we call secondary trauma. Listening to people's story can drain you. And so you must always distress. You must also talk to others. Make time for yourself. Make time and tell others about stories that are actually haunting you.
Okay.
Some of the stories can be so gory, and the person who is telling you did not, polish certain things, just told you a story as he heard, anyhow. And so you can get traumatized, and it is there. And so one of the things I do is that I have means of managing my stress.
Okay.
I have a group I work with. I came to the studio with my prodigies.
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of things myself. Some of the things that can be done by others, I pass on to them.
Okay.
So you can also have time and rest.
And
Also another thing you do is that you must always remember that people want you. So if you don't manage yourself,
you won't be available.
You'll be
for
mismanaged.
Them. Yeah.
If you don't manage yourself, you'll be mismanaged. So manage your time, manage your stresses, make time and rest. Make time when you don't want to see anybody. Yes, you are not God.
Yeah.
Don't build that severe complex. Every trouble should come to you. No, you will break.
I know you're Osafo, but let me sing this song. I'm unavailable. They know this. I'm unavailable. So there are times that you have to be unavailable.
You have to. Even Jesus withdrew. That's what the Bible says. There are times he withdrew. He withdrew from the pressure of the crowd. So you as a clinician have to be careful and for your job.
Yeah.
I mean the stories you listen to. So when you get time to take your break, please take your break.
Absolutely.
Rest.
Well, I'm just back from a break and I feel so good. We have just a few seconds to wrap up. Prof, I would want you to use the next 30 seconds to speak to anybody. There are so many people who are going through a lot, who need intervention and all. But if you had to tell them something, what would you tell them?
2, 3. 1 is that whatever you are going through now, remember that every challenge is transient. It may appear that this is permanent, but it's not. Number 2, it is magical to just speak to someone that, look, I need help. You don't lose anything if you speak to someone. So please go ahead. Number 3, understand that you aren't going to be in this forever.
Right.
Changes will come. So always be positive.